Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome for a second time an accomplished young entrepreneur from Bangalore, India, Mr. Sharad Bansal. Sharad, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for having me again. I mean, it feels so great to come on the platform again, and I think in a different avatar, maybe, and different kind of
Absolutely.
experience to share.
Correct. Last time Sharad came to us and spoke to us, he was the co-founder of Tinkerly, which he still continues to do. But now and today, we're going to speak about him being the founding partner of Warmup Ventures. So, Sharad, let me start with my first question. Can you share the founding story of Warmup Ventures? What motivated you to start it, and how are you different?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think I'll give you a quick snapshot behind how we actually landed up here.
Hmm.
So, at Warmup, we are three partners. There are two other partners, and both of them are operators. And one of them, Rajendra, is running an agritech company, and he's a very dear friend of mine.
Hmm.
And we both were building our own respective startups from Jaipur.
Hmm.
So while my role at Tinkerly was to take care of marketing and finance, and I've been mostly on the raising side of the table and speaking to a lot of investors, and a lot of them being rejected by a lot of them. So I think got to know about the inefficiencies and efficiencies of the domain and
Hmm.
what kind of support you would need from the investors post funding.
That's right.
If you look at so we were doing angel investings. Like 2018 was my first year when I did an angel investment,
Hmm.
and then gradually we realized that when we raised angel investment at Tinkerly, it was 2015. That used to be the first round of the company.
Hmm.
Now, mostly the angel investing is happening through platform, which is second or third round of the company.
Hmm.
So lose a lot of value by the time when you actually want to really invest in the companies. And we realized that, okay, if I am writing a check, Rajendra is writing a check, why not we bring similar like-minded founders of different startups and
Hmm.
a single entry captable check for the startups at early stage. So
Hmm.
that was the thing idea that India is emerging in terms of venture capital industry, but again, I think 10 or 15% funds are being operated by the ex-founders, and which is the genuine problem for the country, because our entrepreneurial spirit started in 2007 or 8, while in US it would have started in 80. So they have a cycle of founders exiting and then investing.
Hmm.
But in India, I think now that cycle has started, and we wanted to create one of the leading founders-led fund, which is raised, the money is coming from the founders and then going to the founders at very early stage. So a lot of I think post funding support to be available there.
Hmm.
So I think that is the key idea, Ashish, I would say, behind coming up with Warmup Ventures. And as the name suggests, warm up, I mean, this is the before you take your first stint and then you go to the marathon, before that you have to do the warm up. And I think that's where we come.
Wonderful. And what a lovely name Warmup is. So thank you. My next question is, in one of the issues that has been faced by most people raising money from angel or private equity, is that people have no knowledge of what an entrepreneur goes through. And I think you are different in that. So my question is, how does your own entrepreneurial background influence your approach to investment?
So I think investing. So when I was raising the equity from for my own company, I think there is a long process which requires when you want to raise from the strategic angel investors.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's also become difficult that no one is there to mentor you that how much to raise and when to raise. So one of the key thesis item of warm up is that we come at a stage when companies raising at least 2.5-3 crores and might
Hmm.
raise up to about 10 crores.
Hmm.
That is the stage when you have enough capital to, and if you have some level of product market fit, you have enough capital to reach your next kind of milestone and reach your Series A.
Hmm.
Sometimes the problems as a founder with that we do is that we are so concerned about the dilution, so we raise too less, or sometimes we are getting so much offer that we raise too high, and in both cases, the future round of funding gets affected. So I think one that while I'm also investing, I think we have seen ourselves in the last 4 deals also that we have done from Warmup, that we are actually sitting on the side of the founder and advising them that okay, you should not take too much money or you should not take too less money.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that experience is very important because I think timing is critical in this entrepreneurial journey. And you cannot be too slow and you cannot be forced to go too fast beyond the market. So that experience which comes from the founder. And then there are several other things. As an operator, you understand the challenges, you understand the realities, you understand what kind of gaps can happen between Excel sheets and reality.
Yeah.
So the founders find it very comfortable to reach out to us because they know that, okay, these guys will be able to relate to the problems that I'm facing and would not circle back me that, okay, what you promised at the time of investment. So I think that comfort of reaching to an investor is there, and that is something I would have craved at my end. I had some lovely investors, but what if that 15 or 20 of them are together coming to you to help you, and whomsoever you want to reach are available?
Very interesting.
That's the thing.
Very, very interesting. And Sharad, what are some of the common qualities that you find in successful startup founders?
That's a difficult question, and actually a lot of it comes from, I think, subjective experience that you have. It comes from the gut, all the essence that has gone as a founder, as an investor in the last 9 years. I think a lot of it is clarity. I think a founder with a very high level of clarity is a very strong signal. Clarity in the sense of the problem of the customer, clarity in the sense of the how large the market is. Sometimes founders would show the market which is not at all relevant, so that gives a very strong red signal to the investors. So that clarity is something that is one, and second is the second, I would say, is that like you can say the speed of the founder, the aggressiveness of the founder, and then it varies from the sector to sector. If it is deep tech, of course, it cannot be as much as like how it is in D2C
Right.
or retail. But I think your passion that you should not you should build lifelong companies, but you should not think of that you have lifelong time to build it. You should think that you have limited time to build that big company. So I think that aggression, passion towards what you want to build with the proper clarity is a very strong signal. Then all those value systems and all, I can talk about a lot of red signals, but green signals is something which comes as a combination of a lot of things in the founders.
But it will also be interesting to hear from you what are some of the red signals?
So I think red signals is one, you are overstating what is possible. So being a founder ourselves, and then a lot of founders backing this fund, we have knowledge and expertise of the different sectors, that what are the challenges, what are the realities of different markets. And when the founders underestimate them, that seems like either there are two ways possible. Either they are not aware of it or they are hiding from us. So in both cases, that gives a very strong red signal. Some other red signals are like founders have different companies working in also in other companies, not exited from other businesses. Cap table is something which is a very strong red signal if this is distorted. Or founders already too diluted before their early rounds. These are red signals. Uh, Red signals also happens to be choosing the wrong markets which have already saturated, or markets where no one has been able to build and you don't have any clear advantage. So you are underestimating the reasons that why your competitor failed. So I'm not saying that, okay, something where 100 people have failed, you can't build. But if you don't know why they failed, then you can't build something which might be successful. So knowledge of the market, and if that is not complete, and that another third thing is agility of the founder.
Right.
So I think sometimes we all know. I think you have been a founder yourself. I think we all know what we plan as doesn't never. I mean, never happens that way. And things change, markets change.
Correct.
You should be agile enough to be listening to the comments. Of course, it's your decision what strategy to follow. But being agile is something. If very adamant founders, that's a contrarian view. Contrarian founders might be successful, but again, a lot of them fail as well. So I think agility is something that I prefer at Warmup.
Great response. My next question for Sharad is that, given the fact that you're all founders yourself in Warmup Ventures, what kind of support do you give to your investee companies to plan their go-to-market strategies and other support?
Yeah, I think I'll take you. So it's been a slightly earlier journey for us. I mean, it's been almost 5 months since we have started investing in the companies. But one of the first investment we did is in the company called BY Analytics, which is a analytics platform for D2C brands.
Hmm.
Uh, so since September, I think almost the 40% of their new clients that they've acquired is something that came through our references. So they need to connect with the D2C brands to reach out, and some of our LPs are there becoming their customers. Some of their LPs reference customers are becoming their customers.
Hmm.
So that is one that, okay, giving them the direct references. One of the companies that we are soon to announce is into QSR space. They're looking for real estate at different locations. At malls, at airports, and giving them context about that. So I think connections is something, execution is something that founders are themselves going to do, but connections is something that a lot of connections we open as a founders. Second, I mean, one of the examples we also help them in terms of financing outlay. So a couple of our LPs have NBFCs, and we have a very strong network of agencies which are in support. So gradually, we try to build their relationships with solving their financing issues at one point of time. So one of my partner who invested in a waste management company, I think 3 4 years ago, they would have invested about 5 crores in equity, but they would have opened up limits of about 20 crores in debt. So we facilitate those kind of things. So challenges, and as a founder, we can estimate that, okay, what kind of risk is involved, and then can advise HNIs that, okay, what kind of and HNIs and NBFCs that what kind of exposure you can take in those companies. So I think these are couple of examples. A lot of new kind of problems our founders are sharing with us, and then we are working on that. Okay, how we can open doors to them and save their time.
Fascinating. And what is the due diligence process that you follow at
Hmm.
Warmup Ventures? Because now you also have not just three founders, but HNIs to be able to give responses to.
Absolutely. So I think very important question, and I think so the stage that we invest in, Ashutosh, is something which is very early. Companies are founded, let's say 6 months, 1 year old, most cases. So something which is diligence about legal and taxation is something that we do from third party experts.
Hmm.
That sometimes we get it done ourselves, and sometimes there are other co-investors and lead investors. They get it done, so we refer to them. But commercial due diligence with respect to like understanding the market, understanding, reviewing their existing customers, taking the feedbacks from them. And then that is something we do it personally ourselves. And we make sure that before making a commitment, we also meet the founders in person, whichever part of the country they are,
Hmm.
visiting their places. So all business and commercial diligence is something which we get hands-on involved, which we cannot be dependent on any external third party.
Hmm.
And then we concise and summarize, and it also involves taking references from other founders in the industry. And
Hmm.
that is the privilege that we have. Like among our LPs, there are founders from gaming, from fintech, from agri-tech, from supply chain. Almost all sectors, founders are some or other way are investors in our fund.
Hmm.
So I think taking a biased view from our investor and an unbiased view from some expert outside our funding network. So I think those multiplication of views is something that helps us for doing the commercial due diligence, and that is something we are, I think, very particular about as well.
Wonderful. Can you also now talk about the importance of the network of limited partners that
Hmm.
you have put together in Warmup Ventures, and what is their role in your success?
Wonderful. I mean, I think if you look at first-time fund managers, and we thought of coming up with a fund in the month of May 2023,
Hmm.
and by July we had closed our first fund. It's a small fund, so about we planned that, okay, we'll create a 10 crores fund, and which ended up to about 20 crores and might close at about 25. So I think that is the reason that within first 3 months we got the closure, is because these LPs knew us from last 9 years, 8 9 years, so mostly from that network. Now, to get and attract good deals is where these founders, their LP network comes in. When we are talking to a founder and when they get to know who are our LPs, and we are very transparent fund in that case. I mean, we expose our LPs with our founders, which usually do not happen in VC
Hmm.
funds, but we expose them that, okay, these are our LPs, and figure out yourself that, okay, who can help you in what ways.
Hmm.
So founders have reached out to us that, okay, this guy owns an NBFC. Can you help us and initiate some financing conversations? This guy has a lot of real estate into different cities. Can you help us there? Someone is building into, let's say, IoT space. So someone is running in OEMs and D2C brands, machinery brands. So can you open some doors. So LPs network has helped us to attract actually good startups reaching out to Warmup and applying at Warmup and taking that investment. So one of the company I would not name, which was raising about 10 crores and got commitments of about 30 crores. They had to reduce the allocations of almost each investors, but they didn't reduce the Warmup's allocation because they knew that, okay, with a small check, there is a lot of network coming in. And even other investors in the market, I meet like a lot of VCs, friends here, and they all appreciated, okay, if you come on board as a cap on the cap table, you will add much value, if not the very large check. We write checks of 50 lakhs to a crore, but even if a company is raising 10 crore, that makes significant impact because we help the founder to reach. So I think LP's contribution, LP's profile is a really game changer in case of if you talk about warm up and how they can help these founders.
Fascinating.
So
Thank you. That was what a great response. My next question, Sharad, is that, there is always a slight friction that exists between angel investors and founders. How do you foster long-term relationships with the founders you invest in?
yeah, I think it's an interesting journey, and I think that is one of the another age that we get in. As I was saying, you founders are able to relate that okay, these guys are founders themselves. So from the day they are pitching us first time when we have a call with them, they have that level of comfort. Okay, I'm not talking to a typical investor who is only concerned about certain matrices to follow and what is happening, but I'm sharing a pain and a solution just like I'm sharing to a founder friend of mine. So I think that comfort level comes from day one. And I think we have been on that side of the table of raising ourselves, so we are able to empathize with the founders that okay, in what kind of tones and what kind of manner you should be asking and discussing with the founders. And when we also prefer to when seriously consider investing in those companies, we prefer to meet them in person, further comfort. And I think that younger age group also helps us. Most of the founders are in their 30s or 20s, and so I think that age group also helps us. And even if they are elder, so a couple of deep tech companies in 40s are coming, they find us very comfortable. Okay, these guys, we can talk comfortably. So I think being ourselves, I'm like mostly spending my time into warm up, but my even my other two partners, Rajendra and Yogesh, they both are operators, and then they understand that okay, as a founder, I'm not talking to an investor. So this is a big reason which reduces the friction. And again, one of the reasons that founders comfortably reach out to us and then prefer that we come on board on the cap table, even with the whatever check size we are writing.
Thank you. And I have time for two or three more questions. What are some red flags you look out for before you consider an investment?
Yeah, I think those same red flags. So I think cap table has to be very clean. The potential of raising, we that is something which we look at. And then founders working in other companies or not. I mean, those are standard hygiene
Fair enough.
checks of cap
Yeah.
table. Second is again the market that we look at. Okay, you cannot look at traction at very early stage, but market is something critical. That who else are building, why they're failing, do they have a reason that they can succeed if others have failed, or is it a new category emerging? What is the founder's background? So I think if founders do not have that clarity, and so only I think only dreamy do not convert into reality. I think dreams with a fair amount of groundwork in terms of research, in terms of interactions, in terms of initial insights, that is something is a very positive. But we are a sector agnostic fund, so in terms of we do not have any antithesis or anti-sectors that okay, this is there we are not investing. I feel in the Indian story, each sector any and each and every sector has a potential to be create 1,000 crore company, and the stage where we enter, I think that gives us the potential of exit. So no
Right.
antithesis, but founders and market is the key focus.
Well, you just spoke of exit, and that's an interesting segue to my next question. I know it's very early days for you, but have you thought of what would your exit strategy be, and how long do you plan to stay invested?
Yeah, so again, I mean, this is very transparent from our side. Since we are investing very early, we start to seek exits at a Series B to B onwards if there is an option possible. So potentially, at least 3 years we are planning to stay in the company, and then plan our stay till 5 years. So 3 to 5 years is the period that when we start to expect. We are usually investing 50 lakhs to a crore at a sub 10 million like amount, almost 70, 80 crores, up to 70, 80 crores valuation. So we see that, okay, in a best case scenario, the company can go keep raising Series B, C, D rounds. Even if in a average case scenario, if the company gets acquired, we can have an acquisitions at a 700, 800 crore valuation and can have a 10x. So we expect to invest when companies have a potential to become 30 to 40x in next 5 years, but we might start taking exit once they hit that 3 years period, and then there is a 10x plus kind of a return coming in. Of course, there are a lot of subjectivities, but this is
Yeah.
the kind of in nature that we're looking at.
Fantastic. And my last question to you, Sharad. A lot of people will listen to this conversation between you and me. And for most founders, early founders, raising money is always a challenge. What advice would you have for founders looking to raise their first round of funding?
I think in terms of before reaching out to the investors for money, I think they should have a clarity about where to use that money. And it doesn't comes in that one single slide solution that, okay, you create a pie chart and you have a distribution of percentages going in there.
Correct.
If you have tried your hypothesis in a smaller manner, and then you know that, okay, this much money I have to spend to get a new customer, this much money I might have to spend on the company, and I have identified few people whom I might want to hire. So if that clarity is there in terms of reaching from milestone A to milestone B, that clarity is, again, everything is on paper, doesn't come true, but I think that clarity helps. And second, the founder should also be sensibly understand that this is a VC money that they're raising, which is the most expensive capital that they're raising. So are they seeking the company to become that 30, 40, 50x kind of a company? If they're planning to run the company in a gradual, frugal manner and can maybe a 2x, 3x kind of a returns, so then potentially the VC is not the right kind of an investor for them. So having that understanding is also, so they should figure out that, okay, what business they are in. Individually, they can make wealth in any of those routes. But if they're choosing the VC route, they should have that long-term view about that route.
Well said. Sharad, on that note and your amazing pieces of advice, the founders looking for money must have clarity on how they wish to use the money, and they must have a deep understanding of their own business, because you're so right when you say, and you said it 2 or 3 times, there's a difference between preparing an Excel spreadsheet and actually implementing something on the ground. Thank you so much for speaking to me, Sharad, about your Warmup Ventures. I think, you've articulated it so beautifully, and how first-time investors or early-stage investors can get money from you. And what I hear, see and hear from you is the ability to be able to reach out to young investors and not just give them money, but also give them all your experience. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.